Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to r/entitled parents, where our first post is an absolutely horrifying one by user/wings of spun sugar. I was sitting around reading stories here and I realized I had a perfect story. The entitled parent is my mother and her insane need to be right. When I was younger, my father had a massive heart attack, the result being that we had to change the family diet to something more heart-healthy. Lots of people go to seafood for heart-healthy diets because of all the healthy oils and fats. So, shellfish and fish were a large part of the household. One night, after we had shrimp pasta, I started getting this weird feeling all over my body. I felt like my whole body was on fire, and like my nose was stuffed, so I had to take deep breaths through my mouth. I looked at my arms, and giant red splotches started to appear all over me. At this point, I call my mother over and exclaim that I must be allergic to shrimp. She looks at me and replies, "It doesn't look too bad, just go to sleep." The entire night, I tossed and turned, unable to catch my breath or get away from the relentless heat oozing off my skin. I decided that day I would never have shrimp again. The next couple times my mother made a meal with shrimp, I would politely decline and make food for myself. Even though I made my own food from scratch, I was still feeling strange after the meal. It was starting to get to the point I would be gasping for air, barely able to swallow, and wheezing. I assumed that being in the same room when they cooked shrimp might be enough to make me feel sick. I mentioned this to my mother and got an irritated sigh and eye roll. "You are not allergic to shrimp." So next time dinner with shrimp rolls around, I just don't say anything. The symptoms come as usual, but I just kept it to myself. Apparently, the lack of mentioning how bad I felt was interpreted as me admitting I was fine. My mum walks over, all proud of herself, and sits down next to me. "See, I've been rubbing shrimp on your utensils before you eat for a while and you've been perfectly fine." Needless to say, I eventually went full anaphylaxis. Unfortunately, from something other than shrimp while I was student teaching, and had to go to see an allergist. After my allergy panel, the doctor declared a very long list of foods, plants, and molds I was allergic to. Guess what was on the deathly allergic list? Shrimp. My mother's reaction when I pointed it out to her, she shrugged and said, "Oops." That was about a decade ago, and I still can't eat food she's prepared. She just tested me again, with onions this time, just last year. She tells me there are no spices on things, and then remembers when my throat starts closing up and I have to devour Benadryl. The worst part is, my father knows and doesn't warn me. So that's the story of my mother preferring being correct over me being alive. I actually have a ton more of these if anyone finds my random childhood stories interesting. I might post more. Thanks for reading. What gets me the most is that this mother was actively doing things to endanger her daughter's health. I think that's pretty rare even for r/entitled parents. Our next post was submitted by user/3thep. I work at a childcare facility and we're open from 8:30 to 4:30. We have strict rules about these times. 4:30 is supposed to be the last possible time you can pick up your child, not the time you start showing up. We have a policy to charge for every 15 minutes past 4:30, but we tend to be nice and not do that if it's a one-off thing and you're there by 5. We have a child with an entitled mother who is late a lot. This year, she's had to pay late fees over a dozen times and always fights it saying, "I pay you to watch my son, don't I?" Anyway, this morning she comes and drops off her boy and comes up to me and says, "I'm going to be a bit late to pick him up today." Usually with parents, that means they'll be showing up 10 to 15 minutes after 4:30, which we accept. But I knew this lady wouldn't be doing that. Sure enough, I ask her what time she expects she'll get here and she says, "Hopefully 6:30, but no later than 7. I have to do some Christmas shopping." I was shocked. She'd been told again and again 4:30 is the latest she can pick him up. I replied, "That isn't going to be possible. He needs to be picked up by 4:30. Later than that, and you're charged." After 5:30, we call the police if we can't get a hold of you. She answers with, "I have urgent Christmas shopping to do today, so you'll just need to watch him." I reiterate the policy we have and she says, "You've said yourself, my son is a great kid. You should feel lucky to spend time with him. I thought you work here because you love kids, or do you just want it for the money?" I'm starting to rage inside, but I can't yell in front of the kids, so I smile. Tell her again the policy we have on pickups and tell her to speak to the manager if she doesn't believe me. She laughs and says, "Just do what I pay you for and watch him," and walks off. I tell my manager, who calls her after lunch, to remind her that she needs to pick up her bye by 4:30 at the latest. Apparently, she laughs it off and says she'll pick him up, so we hope that's that. 4:30 rolls around and her son is now the only kid here. We keep him entertained while we clean up, and she's called but doesn't answer. By 5, my manager calls, saying if someone doesn't answer the phone or can't pick him up, we'll have to call the police. We try the emergency contact numbers, but one is a friend already out of town for the holidays, and the father doesn't pick up. We wait a bit because having the police here will upset the boy, but by 5:30, we don't know what else to do. I call once more and she finally answers. When I tell her she needs to come collect her son now, the conversation goes like this. "I told you I was going to be late." "And I told you that wasn't acceptable. You're lucky we haven't called the police already." "Don't threaten me. You knew I was going to be late. I told you I needed to do Christmas shopping." "That's no excuse. You need to come to get him right now, or we'll have to call the police so that they can bring a social worker down to collect him." "You really know how to ruin Christmas, you bee. I just wanted to get some presents." "Just come pick him up now." "Fine, you are the laziest teacher ever. You don't even want to look after one child." With that, she hangs up and at around 5:45 she pulls up. The manager tells her that this was serious and she'll have to take it to the board to see if they're going to take it further, report her to child services or refuse a place here for her child next year. EM loses it, saying we've ruined Christmas and that she would have us all fired and that her family is used to VIP treatment in this town. Her husband makes a lot of money and that she is disgusted we don't understand that. To top it off, when asked to leave, she grabs a $10 note out of her purse and says, "Here, I've paid the extra time you miserable bunch have done. Get over it, he's an angel to look after." Hopefully, the board take action against her because she's unbelievable. And oh my goodness, I'm sure if this was a one-off thing and there was a serious reason behind it, I don't doubt that these people would have happily looked after any one of the kids for a bit longer. But shopping! Of all things, shopping! I personally would have just waited till 5:30 and just called the police right there and then to sort it out. Alrighty everyone, I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe for Reddit videos every second day. But with that said, that is it from me. I hope you all enjoyed, and all I want to do is see you all here next time. See you later, guys.